Yeah,
All right, everybody, welcome back to Baxter County Roundtable. I believe this is episode 28. My name is Joe Bryant. I'm a Baxter County resident. Um, to my right is Russ Gillis, also a Baxter County resident, my neighbor, co-host. And to my left is Brian Norris, who's running for Secretary of State. Um, First, Russ, I'll let you lead off here and
Okay.
say what you got to say.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. Once again, as of last week, we are sponsored by Mountain Home Heat and Air. They're up on Highway 5 North. Just voted best in the Twin Lakes area for the second year running. They cover from Yellville to Gamelia, Norfolk to Oakland, and all points in between. Installation, service, repair, duct cleaning, you name it. I mean, it's a one-stop shop for everything. Kurt Lawrence and his crew up there do a fantastic job. They do commercial and residential HVAC. I know that they do several of the some of the restaurants here and some of the other businesses around town. You can choose your brands. They're the largest Goodman dealer in Baxter County. Goodman is made down in Houston, Texas, just outside of Houston.
Made in America.
Say they're made in America, by Americans, for Americans.
Awesome.
But you can't get any better than that.
Yep.
So anyway, once again, Baxter County Roundtable is now sponsored by Mountain Home Heat and Air.
Awesome.
And with that, I'd like to turn here to Brian Norris. I know I've been kind of going around with him a little bit. We were over in Marion County last week. Had a very good reception over there. He's running for Secretary of State. Brian, won't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Put me on the spot already.
Already.
I appreciate it. Well, first, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast and get to know your audience and stuff that's out there. We spoke a little bit before, and I think what you guys are doing and what others are replicating are truly an opportunity for fundamental change in the state of Arkansas for politics.
Yep.
Your neighbors know you. They trust you. They'll get to. You guys are not partisan. You let anyone on this podcast, and you're not hostile. You don't belittle them. You don't demean them. You just give them an opportunity to state your case and in the public square, which is so important.
Yeah, we're here to get information out. Basically,
information is power, and the more you know, the better informed you can be as a voter, and that's what you need to be before you go into that ballot box.
And people aren't nearly as dumb as a lot of people like to make out like they are.
Absolutely
and
not.
like a lot of politicians think that they are.
Yeah.
Give them the right information, people are going to make the right decision.
Exactly. Absolutely. The people of Arkansas are deceptively smart in a lot of ways. There's academic smart, there's all different degrees that you can be intelligent. But people from Arkansas are grounded in common sense, and they got a great BS detector. They spend a little bit of time with people. It won't take them long to figure out where they're at, and if they know truth when they see it. So it doesn't take too much. And that's why I tell people when I'm going out and about, I just want the opportunity to earn your vote. I don't want you to give it to me, but just give me a fair opportunity to earn it from you. Spend a little time with me, get to know me. I've never said no to anyone out on the campaign trail. I love getting to know my people across the state. I love getting to hear their concerns, issues, and things that they like. And I just want an opportunity to visit with them, learn what they need, learn how I can help.
How about if you introduce yourself as far as where you're from?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your life and what
Well,
you're all about.
I'm a born and raised Arkansan. I was born in Truman, Arkansas, over in the Delta. Spent my entire life there. I was born to a single mom. Got a stepdad around 7 or 8. We moved out from the projects there in Truman to an old home the shotgun style homes where you could open up the front door and shoot a shotgun and it would go all the way through to the back door. Home in between Truman and Bay, about a mile outside of town, I guess you could say. And so I'd walk to school quite a bit, walk back, and lot of time to think, a lot of times to wonder, and just visit and be in nature. But that also paid dividends later down the road. I had a learning disability, dyslexia. And I had a teacher that would open her doors up about an hour early every morning for a little over a year to help me with that dyslexic challenge. And then later on, as I was making those walks, there would be teachers that would recognize that I was, struggling in a few areas, and they'd open their doors up to their homes and tutor me in the issues where I was failing and hurting at. And that really, that hit me because that was an investment. That was something that they didn't have to do, and I didn't want that investment to be not for naught. And it did pay off. I got into college there at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. Was doing pretty well, having a good time like a young man should do, early on in college. But as, things happen we don't always have control over. 9/11 happened when I was in college, and I made the choice to serve. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't have any thought of ever joining the military, but I felt the duty to do so when my nation was in need. And once George Bush declared war, 3 days later I was at the MEP station signing up, and I was off. And I spent the next 21 years in service throughout the entirety of our longest war, multiple combat deployments, stationed all over the world, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And then during that time, closed out, finished up my bachelor's, got a project management certificate, got my master's degree in transformational leadership.
Now, did you finish that education in the military?
It was a long stretch. I'm
Well,
probably one of the longest serving college students in history. It'd be interesting to see. But I started college in 2000, and I got my bachelor's in 2021. And then I got my certificate of project management 2022, and I just graduated with my master's degree. So that entire time I was hitting there. I mean, there was times where in my career where I couldn't do it, but it was a go. I had to go, and I was going to achieve that goal no matter what. It doesn't say how long it took me to get my degree on the piece of paper. It just says that I got one, right? And that's what matters. I wanted to check that box and close it up because that was that was my intent. That was my goal.
I think you actually beat me because I started college in 1968 and I graduated in 1988.
Well, I'm still pursuing my college
I
degree.
think about 4 years I might have you. Yeah. But it was a time in my life serving, an honor serving this. And I achieved the rank of first sergeant, retired, moved back to Arkansas, Batesville, and got a job as a project manager for a Fortune 500 company. And now I manage global projects. I got some in Europe, got some North America, got some over in Asia. And that's what I spend my time doing when I'm not on the campaign trail. It's been
You're an Arkansas boy and born and raised, a military guy. Sounds pretty admirable. If you are you married? Kids?
Yep, married. Definitely married up.
Very wise comment.
Well, it's true, at least from my point of view. I tell people all the time. The first thing when they meet my wife or they see a picture, I tell them, like, look, the answer to your first question is yes, I'm married up, and the answer to your second question is she hasn't figured it out yet. It's because every morning's like winning the lottery. When I wake up and look at her, it's like, yep, another day. She ain't learned yet. So we're gonna keep on rolling those dice until something better comes along anyway for her.
You want to move into the Secretary of State business?
Let's do it.
My first question is that I think people might be interested in. What does the Secretary of State do?
Quite a bit, actually. And it's unfortunate that most Arkansans don't really understand what are the true responsibilities and duties of the Secretary of State.
That's right.
And I like to categorize things. So I call them three pillars. You have elections, you have business, and then you have the Capitol grounds. So those are the three pillars, hard-coded, big-name things that the Secretary of State's office is responsible for. But there's ancillary things that are equally important. Mm. The chief record keeper for the state. So anytime you want to know about a law or a policy or a regulation or this or that, it's supposed to be cataloged with the Secretary of State so that you can go and find it with relative ease, because they say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But I say bullcrap, because if you're going to pass 1,500 new laws in a 3-month period and then expect me to figure that out after that 3-month period, I've got to have a good resource and a great place to go that I can filter keywords and figure that out. We don't have that right now. So definitely want to church that up and make it a little bit better.
I got a quick question on
Yeah.
all this stuff here. As far as you're supposed to keep track of all this stuff. I want to see it.
You should be able to see it.
Can I today?
You can, but you have to be very diligent in how you're doing it. So the
Are there roadblocks?
I wouldn't call them roadblocks, just bad designing. And it's just one of the things that happen. Something in your head may seem like a fantastic idea, but when it comes to fruition, it's actually not the great idea when someone else is trying to do it, right? We've all had experiences like that. But the intent was there to do and provide a good service. What's lacking is the user interface and usability of it. The information is there, but you almost have to search exact keywords in order to find what it is that you're looking for. It's not you go to Google, and as long as you're in the ballpark, you're going to find it on that first page, what you're looking for, right? Not so much with the Secretary of State's website. You got to be very specific in what it is you're looking for. And there's some form flows, some staging that you got to click through in order to get what you want. It's kind of 7 ways from Kevin Bacon. You'll eventually find your way there, but you take a lot of lefts and rights before you get there.
Kind of like a typical government website, whether it's state, federal, or whatever, just doesn't have the usability that it should.
Exactly.
Well, and it kind of gives you impression that they're trying to hide something. If I can't find it easy, my first reaction, because I'm not very trusting when it comes to government, is these people aren't being transparent. What's going on? So
it's there. You just got you got to know where to go to find it. Well, if you don't work there, how do you know where to go?
that's right.
And a lot of it too is career capture. It makes sense to them because they're in it and around it all day, every day. So I'm always going to err on the side of I don't want to think they're doing something nefarious, but there is something to be said for institutional capture. And when you're surrounded and you're siloed by something every day, that's your normal, and you expect other people to just understand that. Well, I can tell you as a project manager, I deal with very different projects constantly, and you can never assume that people are just going to understand something. Something as simple as changing to a new phone on people's desk. That was the craziest amount of negative comments that I got back on any and I thought it was going to be the easiest one I could do. But these secretaries across the entire corporation, boy, they were emailing me real quick. Like, this button used to do this, and it doesn't do it anymore. And you can't take that stuff for granted. You got to have clear change management and instructions for people when they come on to something. If it doesn't just intuitively flow,
It's kind of like when you do a software program, you do a validation verification.
Mm-hmm.
You take each line of code and you say, okay, what is this supposed to do? Okay, they tell you what it's supposed to do. Then you actually look on the machine and see, is that what it actually does? When you're dealing with something like a new website, you've got to have people come in from all different walks of life and say, okay, what do you want to find? Here's what we have. See what you can find, or you give them different tasks and see how they can find it, and see how difficult it is for them. If it's too difficult for the average guy that you just brought in, then it needs to be redesigned.
That's called user acceptance testing.
Yep.
And we will revamp that website, and we will have a thorough user acceptance testing process before go live. And that brings me to another point on the website with the candidate filings. And you guys, you have to deal with that now too as a committee. Why would we go live with a new filing system just months before a primary starting up? All the issues and things they had. I mean, did you do any UAT? Because I don't think they did, user acceptance testing. Because when I first started, I scheduled a 1 hour, and they did it for me. They were amicable. 101 1 hour with the programmer that did the filing portions for the Secretary of State's office, because I couldn't get the information to load up correctly. It just kept kicking it back. So I scheduled that, and I said, you're going to sit here with me for an hour, and we're going to go column by column by column and make sure that I get this right. But they can't do that for all 1,000 people that's running for office in the primaries in Arkansas. You can't do that. And
But yet they're going to hold each one of those 1,000 accountable for having correct filings.
yeah, well, I'd like to see that court battle come up after this season with all the issues that they've got.
Yeah,
Because
they took something pretty simple and made it complicated.
they
no doubt
did,
about it.
but then they put different standards on different races. State races have one standard, federal races have a different standard, municipal races have a different standard, and different times when they had to file. And it's just a cluster. So for me, the moment I hit $500, it triggered, or $500 expenditure or contribution, it triggered a mandatory filing. Well, they told the municipal races out that, well, don't worry about that. You guys aren't going to start filing until January. And just keep a hold of everything that you got, and then you'll start filing in January.
Oh man,
Okay.
that's not a good.
Kind of a staggered,
good system.
got a staggered start here.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, another question I have: why'd you decide to run for this office?
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Oh, awesome. And,
Well, truth be told, I didn't realize how actual much there would be involved in the process. I'm not a politician. No, I don't want to be a politician, so I had no azimuth on it. But I knew something needed to be done. There needed to be a change, and if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I've I'll regurgitate a few numbers, but we're the fourth poorest state in the nation. We are the 41st worst when it comes to businesses in 2025. In educated workforce, we're 41st in that. For median income, we're 47th. And for households below the ALICE threshold, which the ALICE is the Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, which means how much disposable income do you have to make your life more comfortable? We're at 47 on that one. And then overall food insecurity rate, we're number one worst in the nation for food insecurity.
Wow.
And then for child food insecurity, we're the second highest rated on that one too. So the facts are facts. Words speak, numbers scream. That's what I see when I look at that screaming at me, and it's screaming at me in a multitude of ways. And one of them, to answer your question, is being selfish. And 10, 15 years from now, my kids are going to be entering the professional world, and they're going to be trying to find a husband, start a life, and do all that thing. And they're going to look at me and they're going to say, "Dad, I love you, and I love Arkansas. But I want to thrive in this world and not survive. And in order to do that, I have to go to Texas or East Coast or West Coast somewhere to find the opportunities and job to live the way that I want to live." And then I'm looking at a situation where I'm chasing my kids to have a relationship with them and my future grandkids. When we have more than enough resources in this state, we have great infrastructure, we have great workforce capabilities, but we're not advertising ourselves and our potential to bring those opportunities to the state, to give the people of this state a chance to get out of these numbers.
well, do you have any specific solutions?
Yeah, I can give you quite a few. One easy button is our pine down south. They're hurting.
Who is that?
The pine business, the timber business
okay.
for pine.
Gotcha.
Well, you can make jet fuel out of pine pulp, but we're not doing it. The refineries in Arkansas are capable of refining pine pulp into jet fuel, but we're not doing it, and there's the vehicle to get that going. So right now, if you own acreage of pine, it costs you money to cut it, so it's not worth it. So now we're having forest overgrow. We're having people not upkeeping their land like they should because there's no monetary value to it at all. But we could put a vehicle in front of them to potentially do.
And that's energy.
That's energy, and we need energy. Jet fuel is in need.
Yeah.
It's constantly in need, and we have rail freight that can get it there. We have road freight that can get it there. We've got a lot of airports in the state of Arkansas that could utilize it.
and we got a lot of pine forests in southern Arkansas, and with the paper business on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has been going down for years since everybody went paperless.
Yep.
And all the corporations and everything.
Yeah, forestry used to be huge in Arkansas.
Yeah, forestry was one of the top industries, but the pulp industry now is, like he said, it's dead. I mean, they can hardly give it away. So, what do you do with all that? Well, we've got all those pine forests down there. We've got to do something with them.
Got to figure it out.
So I mean, there's only a certain amount of it you can use for lumber, and there's only a certain call for pine lumber anyway. But most of those trees, I can't remember exactly what species. I know it's pine, but they're not made to grow to great big size. That they harvest them when they're the size for pulp.
Right.
And it'd take another 40 years for them to get up big enough to use them as lumber. Well, what do you do in the meantime? People, Weyerhaeuser and all the other companies down there that own all those forests, they go bankrupt. That's what they do.
Which is unfortunate. We've had too much of this in this state. But the number one resource and capital that we have is lithium. Natural gas, of course, there with it too, and some other resources we have down south. But lithium, that lithium deposit in Arkansas is estimated or evaluated $1 trillion.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
Surprise.
Smackover formation.
And I am afraid that Texas companies are going to come and they're going to extract that resource, export it to Texas, and they're going to gain monetarily on it, and Arkansas is not. I'm very afraid of that because it has the potential to create more wealth in the state of Arkansas than all the oil fields in Texas and Oklahoma combined. I mean, it potentially could do that. And it's not, it's not strip mining lithium. It's not what it is. They've got completely new processes out for horizontal drilling to go through and extract that lithium and then fill the void where it was with pressurized water in there, so you don't have to worry about any cave-ins or anything. And over time, that's all going to settle out. But we have a multi-point issue when it comes to the lithium that we can capitalize on. So what I would like to see is that we mine it, we make money on mining it, and then we build the factories to manufacture the batteries in the state of Arkansas. So we have vertical manufacturing going on, right? And then as soon as the batteries are done, for a majority of them, we build power battery banks in the state to house energy. And the reason why that's important is if you look at what everyone's saying, artificial intelligence is projected to consume 100% of the electric output of the entire United States within 5 years.
Yep.
Now, we can produce more energy, but there's nowhere for that energy to go. So if we create the battery banks, we can store that energy during off-peak hours and then sell it back to the market during peak hours and solving a need.
We have this resource now,
We do.
but we're not taking advantage of it. Why? Who's getting in the way of that, if anyone?
Well, they have just started, I guess, preliminary extractions down there, and it's in southern Arkansas. I believe it's called the Smackover.
Yep.
Smackover formation. It goes all the way from south central Arkansas all the way over into Texas. But it's a new process, and I guess they only found this formation about a year ago or so.
I think it's 2.
So it takes time for them to build out the infrastructure to extract it. But like he said, I don't think they have looked at building the facilities to process it and do all the other stuff and then go straight into manufacturing of it. As far as the AI, I know we just got Sarah Sanders was key and instrumental in bringing I think it's a Google or Amazon, one of them, data center into West Memphis over in northeast Arkansas. I was reading an article this weekend that the $500 billion investment that Google, Amazon, and all the others are making in AI will totally outstrip the electric demand in this country. And the question is, who's going to pay for that? Well, consumers are going to end up paying for it because electricity is going to rise as demand outstrips supply. Prices are going to go up. So, like he was saying, and the grid is in such horrible shape that we've got to increase the grid capacity in order to be able to generate more. So the storage capacity there is going to be instrumental also.
Could be. And it's a double-edged sword as well, because AI is listed as a national defense asset.
Yes.
So if it comes between AI losing its power or your lights getting turned off in your house, who's going to win?
Yeah.
The NDA asset.
It's going to get dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived that in California, and it's not a pretty sight, I'm going to tell you.
No, and it's unnecessary.
Yes, it is.
I mean, they're looking at a lot of different things to solve that issue. I don't know if you guys have heard about the container nuclear reactors.
Mm-hmm.
So they've built a nuclear reactor that can fit in the back of a shipping container.
Yeah.
And the ideas behind that is they can park that next to these large data centers or neighborhoods. And you got one reactor that's pretty close to wherever the power is being supplied at, and they can facilitate the needs of that area with a small reactor. But how long is it going to take to manufacture enough of those to solve the problem?
Exactly.
And then how long does it take to build a true nuclear reactor?
Yeah.
You know, Nuke 1 in Arkansas is quite old.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and
Down
being
in
pushed to the
Garden Hill.
max. And they're talking about the one in Newark, the coal-fired plant there, which is the #1 energy-producing coal plant in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Last I heard, they're talking about closing it down any time now.
Well, I think the two coal-fired, I think, were supposed to close in 27 or 28, but I think they did get an extension for a couple of years. But then again, you know, President Trump's going to be going out of office. If a Democrat gets in, all bets are off on that. You know?
Yeah, it's going to get dark everywhere,
Yeah.
I suspect.
But that's a pretty good start on one of the pillars. What about some of the other? You know, you mentioned 3 pillars there: business and elections. What about the business aspect? We'll save elections to last.
Okay. So for business, day one, I want to come in with a Doge-style audit from an independent third party with one directive. Your job is to comb through everything in the Secretary of State's office that he's responsible for. And if it's not codified in law, meaning it's not signed by the governor and passed by the legislature, it goes away. I want them to bring that to me, and I'm going to vet it with the attorneys at the Secretary of State's office and on staff. But once those attorneys come back to me and they say, hey, this stuff is not, it's a bureaucratic process, it's a regulation, it's a policy, but it's not codified in law, it's going away. I'm not even going to read it or entertain it. And then that should start to free up some of the red tape, some of the hurdles and things that are going on to allow business. Because I hear it all over the state. I can expand my small business. I can do more, but I don't want to deal with all the bureaucratic red tape that would entail. I don't want to deal with it. So I want to keep it simple, stupid. I want you to be able to go online, fill out your LLC, fill out your nonprofit, fill out whatever it is, and get an answer in less than 72 hours. My goal is 24 hours, but realistically, we should be able to attain 72 hours. But I would love a 24-hour mark.
Well, I like that idea. I mean, we're not supposed to be being governed by bureaucracy.
No.
Pure and simple.
Nobody elected them.
Yeah, end of conversation on that, as far as I'm concerned.
I would read them.
So
I would read at least some of them, you know, just so that you know
how crazy it was,
stupid it was, you know, and it's like, where did this come from? Who generated this? And keep a dossier of it to
Lessons
come back
learned.
to us and say, here's what we found,
You've
folks.
changed my mind.
Well, you can shed light on it, and let's get rid of some of that bureaucracy.
You've changed my mind. I'll definitely do that. That's a great point for transparency and letting people know. Because if you don't know where you started at, you don't know where you've improved at. So we need to have a baseline. So that's a good way to get a baseline.
Businesses need to know what's no longer going to be required of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if this, you know, they've been struggling to meet all this. You know, I know a lot of the federal regulations that have been relaxed really took a lot of the onus off of small businesses reporting.
Yep.
So you figure if the federal government did that, we could take a good bit more off at the state level too.
Yep. I want to partner with all the businesses and create that, what I call a knowledge center of excellence. And it's a way for me to have direct contact from the Secretary of State's office to any business that wants to. Now, it's voluntary. We can't force them to do it. But I really want to create that buy-in. But if we get this built right, a business should be able to go there that's running and know whatever business area they're in, everything that's applicable to them to be in compliance with federal law, state law, and all that stuff, right? But also because they're in there and they have access to it, then we have an email, we have a point of contact, we have that. So we can do real good change management. So when we do all those changes, we can blast out to every single one of them, this is what used to be and this is no longer and this is what it means. So that now you know, please confirm receipt of this and that you've disseminated it throughout your business and everyone's tracking. Because you mentioned the other day that the Secretary of State's office gets 2,500 calls a day. Mm-hmm. And I would wager that the vast majority of those phone calls are, how do I navigate this website and how do I fix my business filings and issues that you're saying I did wrong? Because that's another part of it. I don't ever believe in telling somebody that something's wrong and just you figure it out. No, you messed up. You didn't do this correctly. Now let me show you what right looks like. Please do it again. Send it back to me. And that could be something as simple as just a pre-filled out template that shows where stuff's supposed to go. Or you just send them back saying, hey, you put this wrong information on this. You got to change it to that to be in compliance. And that's all you got to do is send it back to me, but I can't do it for you. I'm not allowed to. Mm-hmm. That's an easy day, right? Instead, you get, I'm denied. Why am I denied? What's wrong with my stuff? Oh, yeah. Where do I go to find out where I'm denied at? Hey, Secretary of State's office, and time is money. You have to
wander through that to get.
Well, and time is money. How much are we paying for those people to be answering those phone calls every single day?
And what could they be doing more usefully if they weren't having to answer the phone call?
Yeah, I want to be proactive instead of reactive. I want to be so far ahead of everyone else that we're not constantly reacting to everything and trying to solve everybody's problem. We got ahead of it. We're moving forward, and that issue has dropped down to 70%, 80%. So we don't have to spend as much time on it. And now we can have a customer service center where we can help you maybe fill out a grant, or maybe look for resources that can help you in a rural area to get resources, grants, money, different things from the federal government, whatever. And who knows, if we get so good at it, maybe we could have templates and help you figure it out in a business packet to go with it. You don't know, but we can't do it if we're constantly reacting.
Because just about every small business in the state has got to come through you to get their get their number. What is it, the UIC number or CCC number? What I don't know. EIC or
EIN, economic number. One of them comes from the IRS, and one of them comes from that. But that's another point. How do you know what you're doing is working? You have to check with the people that it's affecting. So every 3 months, just me, no staff members, I want to meet with at least one business owner from every county somewhere. We'll rotate around. And I want to do what's called a hot wash. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What do you need? How can I improve? And at first, it may be bad. They may be a lot of people angry at me, not liking it. But I'm going to take those lessons down. I'm going to go back, and we're going to figure out how to improve in those areas. And then that way, when I come back in 3 months, I'll be like, is it better? How can we make it even more better? Mm-hmm. And that's because if you don't know where you're starting at, you don't know what's wrong, how can you project if you're improving? Because I guarantee you, everybody that's been sitting in that office has gotten really great reviews and wrote themselves great report cards and all that stuff. But where's your quantifiable data that you move the needle to benefit anyone? Yeah. Show me it. You can say that you enhanced voter, all this stuff. Well, guess what? We are 51 out of 50 for voter turnout. So for me, my key performance indicator of your duties as a Secretary of State when it comes to voting is that. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't care what you say, how much integrity you have, how beneficial you are, you're 51 out of 50 because D.C. beat us. Do better.
Definitely. Well, and along those lines, we've got to do something to start improving our voter turnout. I've thought for a long time that we don't do any advertisement for getting out to vote. We don't push people to vote. We don't try to educate people to vote, other than your county committees and organizations at the local level. There's no emphasis put on getting out and exercising your God-given right to vote. Mm-hmm. And as badly as we vote in general elections, in primary elections, it's even worse. Mm-hmm. It's abysmal. I think it's only like in the mid 20 percentile
if
even
that
show
even.
out to vote in a primary.
In Arkansas, the primary is the election.
Is the election.
Yeah.
That is where, I hear people
But-
say, well, it doesn't do any good to vote anymore because, they're all crooked or whatever. It's like, well, did you know anybody of them? Well, I didn't, no, I don't care about it. They're all crooked or whatever. It's like, well, explain that to me. Well, I didn't know any of them. Well, did you know any of them in the primary? Well, I didn't vote in the primary. Well, why not? They don't realize that the primary is where you select the candidates that you're going to see in the primary, in the general. If you don't vote in the primary, you're voting for everybody else's candidate
Well,
because you didn't take advantage of it.
Who do we elect in the primaries though that don't have a general?
Yeah.
Judges.
Yeah, judges.
Judges.
Yeah, the judges, their election, their final election is coming March the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to vote, you better get out and vote for the judges. I know I'm working to get Justice Nick Bronny on our podcast here in the near future. He's running for re-election on the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
But the judges, their final election is March the 3rd.
Yeah,
It's
see,
a done deal.
That's like a special election. I think in part people don't even know about it, and even the primary. I don't think a lot of people don't even know it's happening.
No,
They know
well,
when
it goes back to there's no get the vote out. There's no education from the state
They
on
know
it.
November 5th is the presidential election, but I think
Everyone gets concerned with the federal races and the president, but they don't understand or realize that your day-to-day life is far more affected by your city
And your county.
and your county,
Yep.
and then your state to a degree. Echelons above reality is the federal government. It's the shiny one that looks good and it's got the military and it does all that stuff. But when your day-to-day life is not affected hardly at all by the federal government.
well, and as an individual, you can't really affect it like you can locally.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
wait.
walk up to your county judge and talk to him in person.
That's right. You wait for 4 years. You go down. You cast your vote for president. You're done for another 4 years. Well,
Yep.
guess what? There's elections in between there that absolutely affect your day-to-day life. They set the millages
Yep.
for your property taxes. They set the sales tax for your everything you buy in the state of Arkansas. They pass the regulations and stuff that affect you every single day, no matter where you're at in the state of Arkansas. And if you're neglecting to vote in the primary election for your justice of the peace, your judge, your collector, your treasurer, and all the other, and the judge, the circuit judge, the district judge, and Supreme Court judges, you're just throwing away your God-given right. People have died for this. I had
That's what
I
I
had a
was gonna say.
discussion with a business owner last year, and he said, I don't even vote. I registered one time, and I went down there to vote, and my name wasn't on the list, so I never went back. And I pulled him out a voter registration form, and I handed it to him. He says, what's this? I says, voter registration form. And he says, well, what am I going to do with that? I said, I'd like for you to fill it out. I'll take it to the courthouse for you and file it for you. But I said, I'd like for you to vote. I said, people have died to give you that right, and you're just throwing it away.
103 million
Yes.
have died
Yep.
for that. And I tell people this is my turnaround to them when they say that they don't go and vote, or when they ask the question, why should I go and vote? And I say, because you say all the time, thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. I really do from the bottom of my heart. I absolutely do. But if you really want to thank us, the number one thing you can do is go and exercise what 103 million people gave the ultimate sacrifice for you to be able to do.
Yeah.
Because that's chief among the list.
Yep.
Because you can't have the pursuit of happiness unless you're affecting your body politic.
That's
Because
right.
sooner or later, that body politic is going to drain your wealth and give it to someone else, and then your pursuit of happiness is nil, impossible. And you can't have liberty. You can't have your Second Amendment. You can't have all these things that we hold near and dear unless you are a part of the process that puts the people in the seats that make determinations on how those rights
That's true.
are protected or not.
And if you don't vote, I'm sorry, but you don't have a complaint.
Nope.
You don't have the right to complain. Not about your JP, not about your county judge, not about the president or
School board.
or anybody.
Yeah.
Even school board. Exactly. If you don't vote, then just keep your mouth shut because you deemed it not important enough to get out and go vote.
I want to get back to a little bit to where I think I said that people don't know about these votes a lot of times. So we need to come up with a remedy for that, and specifically these special elections they have. I argue that these special elections are done to be for the purpose of underhanded
I agree.
results.
Let's schedule a special election on a random Tuesday during a holiday at noon.
Yeah, does the Secretary of State have any?
They have to give the certification for the election to take place, but the counties are autonomous to a lot of it.
Okay.
The manner in which the vote is taking, the Secretary of State's office has some certification responsibilities over that. But when it comes to telling them that they cannot hold a special election, I think that's outside of scope.
Okay.
Now, they have restricted some of the
Some.
special elections that they used to have. They used to be able to have special elections for just about anything. Now they have restricted that. I think specifically, school boards, unless they have to replace someone that has resigned or passed away or whatever. But they're held, I think, every 2 years, so, but, and they have to justify, they have to provide justification for holding special elections, but there are some.
Well, look at the special election for the Franklin County for Gary Stubblefield's seat.
Yeah.
So when they want to, they'll do it really quick and run through. But when it doesn't suit them, let's wait 280 days.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it.
We'll get to it. It'll come.
Yeah, we'll forget about the people that are not being represented.
Well, it's not consistent and it's not fair.
Yeah.
And
right.
you've got to be consistent so that you can show that you're being fair. The moment you get off on consistency, nobody is going to believe what it is that you're doing because you're just all over the map. If you do it one way for one, you got to do it the same way for everyone else, or people are going to start asking questions why, and it doesn't look proper.
That's right. Regardless of what the reasoning is, it doesn't look like it is.
Perception matters.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot, especially when it comes to things like that.
So getting into the elections. Now I know, you're big on election security, election
Integrity.
Integrity. Tell us a little bit about what you foresee there.
Well, we have a problem, and it's come to light more and more as the months have gone on. I mean, I don't know if you saw what Trump put out today, but he says he has the proof, and he will be releasing that over the next couple of weeks. So we all have a pretty good idea now about what happens through the book Stolen Elections, the interview with Laura Logan and Ralph Puzo and Behringer that she had on her podcast, who were whistleblowers, who pulled these guys out of Venezuela and out of Cuba, and they're testifying. You have the couple of generals that's in prison right now that have wrote sworn letters to President Trump detailing their involvement in what they did and what the government was planning to do to America through the election process in 72 other countries.
This is concerning the machines, is that right?
It's concerning the source code of the machine. Now, a machine is only going to do what it's told to do. It's not, the machine itself is not nefarious, right?
Right.
But here is my chief issue of it. Let's even get away with all of the issues of Venezuela, Cuba, and all that stuff. The source code in the machines in Arkansas are owned by a company called ES&S. And when you drill down to find out who actually owns ES&S, who's the person, you can't find a person. You'll find a shell corporation made up of a board made up of members, and we're not allowed to know who those people are. I have an issue with that. I have an issue that our state Supreme Court has said that we don't have a right to see that source code because it's proprietary knowledge. And if you can't see the source code of any machine, you don't really know what it is that it's doing. It may be doing bad things. It may not be. But I want to know. Trust but verify, in the good words of Ronald Reagan. So that's an issue in and of itself right there. And it's owned by a company that's not in Arkansas. So effectively, you have an out-of-state corporation running the elections in the state of Arkansas. There's also a bunch of other issues on with it. The ballot marking device that we have, those were not manufactured for your average everyday use. They were manufactured solely for handicapped people. And that's why they have so many issues, and they have to be recalibrated all the time. So the gear that we bought does not suit the need that we bought it for. It's not the right equipment for the need that we want. But also, the vast majority of the components inside these machines are manufactured by Communist China.
Mm-hmm.
I have a serious issue with that because technology. I know a little bit about technology. There's all kinds of malware and other things that you can program into the circuitry that you can put that you didn't even know was there.
You can put a program on a chip.
It happened in the military with the servers and all that stuff. We went through all that. I mean, when I left, they were actually getting rid of the printers because they found out that there was a back door in the printers that we were using, and every sheet of paper that was coming through was being scanned and sent back overseas to this nation where it came from. I don't remember which nation it was, whether it was North Korea or China, but it was one of the two. So the vulnerabilities are there in plethora. So why would we allow ourselves to even have that vulnerability wide open constantly? And people say, well, it's as far as we know, nothing's ever happened in Arkansas. And I'm like, you're right, that's great until it does. But I don't buy insurance thinking that my house is going to burn down the next day. I don't have a fire extinguisher in my kitchen just because I do it preemptively. I prepare for the scenario. Well, now we know that there is a serious issue with these machines. There's a lot of stuff on the surface that just doesn't look good. We have a transparency clause in our Constitution, and I can't see inside that machine. So why don't we fix that and make sure it's good to go? Maybe voter confidence will go up.
Yeah. I mean,
And then maybe voter confidence goes up, voter turnout goes up accordingly.
I can't even understand why. There's a question here. A lot of people have questions about this. Why are politicians fighting? We need to be able to audit this. We need to know that these are good elections. These are good counts. We need to know. We're entitled to that. But we have our own people that are supposed to be on our side.
Yeah.
What's going on?
We're working on it.
Okay.
But I can promise you this: during my tenure, there will be more audits after elections in the state of Arkansas than the entire history of the state of Arkansas, because I will get to as many as humanly possible, primary and general, and I will audit them 100%, not 10%, not just a sample.
But you can't audit the machines right now.
Can you? You can't audit the source code, so you don't know what it was really reading. And it's reading a barcode, and I don't speak barcode. There's some nuances to it. The counter argument, the steel man is, well, you get a receipt, a piece of paper. They call it a paper ballot. I call it a receipt. And that has English on it. So when you run it through, you know the vote count coming out from the machine, and you can verify that with the receipt that you put into the machine. So, okay, maybe you can do that. But then I ask the question is, but you can't audit voter intent. And when you have a ballot marking device that you have to recalibrate all the time that could be selecting something that you didn't select, and the average Arkansan only spends 2.3 seconds looking at their ballot, and that's from a Rasmussen poll, and they got 17 candidates, 25 candidates, 30-something candidates on different races that they had to choose from. Only spent 2.3 seconds. You can't audit voter intent. And moreover, how many ballots did you spoil? So that means that someone caught a mistake on their ballot, identified it, they spoil the ballot, take you back to the machine, and you do it again. Well, the machine knows that you're voting for a second time because it's pulling up the exact same ballot, right? So it's, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to mess up this time because this is the second time this person's coming up to the machine. So those are the reasons why they can say it never failed, because you can't audit voter intent, and when it does make a mistake, you just spoil the ballot and you give them a new ballot and they correct it. So in a machine that audits itself, and that's the Arkansas law says that the audit must be conducted in the same manner in which the vote was taken.
Oh.
So it means that the machines audit themselves. That's the way the law is written. So I'm going to do a hand audit, 100%. Because after the election has been certified and it's done, we got all the time in the world to go back and count those ballot boxes. And I got at least 2 years before another general or a primary to get to all 75 counties with a team and conduct a 100% audit. And we will have quantifiable data. Another thing that I want is I want to have someone, if we're still on machines, I want someone specifically there stopping you. Look at your ballot.
Yeah.
Look it up and down. Make sure it's right before you put it in the machine.
You know, I like your idea, but somebody's going to involve the courts.
Well, I mean, that's my purview is to audit. They're not going to be able to stop me from being able to do that. Good luck.
Yeah.
The elections is my responsibility.
That's right.
I'm the chief executor of elections in the state of Arkansas. I'm going to look.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send people to as many voting locations as possible just to check. We will be
I'm all
a
for
very engaged
I'm all for
Secretary
it.
of State.
I just,
Now the one thing,
I just
you
see
know,
a
I
lot
hear,
of lawfare going on.
I hear
That's
people say all the time, well, Arkansas doesn't have any problem. We don't think Arkansas has a problem, at least not widespread.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we've got 50 states plus D.C. and Puerto Rico and other Guam and all these other places that all vote at the same time. But the thing about it is everybody throughout the country is using machines. I know for a fact, lived in California for 40 years. You know, not only do they play with their machines, but they count for 3 weeks or a month or whatever, however long it takes to get the vote count that they want. The big thing is, when it comes to federal elections, we need a process and machines that have been validated and verified. And when I say validated and verified, you know, coming from the military background, we don't buy a software program for a weapon system or a communication system or a computer system in the military without doing a 100% validation and verification, where you take every single line of source code and you say, okay, what is it supposed to do? You trace that to the requirement. Then you look at the machine and say, okay, what is it actually doing? We need to validate and verify every single program for every single machine. And that's the tabulators or whatever, the readers, you name it. And it has to be done across every state, every protectorate, D.C., everybody. It has to all be the same. It has to be made by 100%, made with 100% U.S.-made parts. Going back to what you were saying, I specifically witnessed one of the systems, one of the programs that I was working before I retired. We were putting brand new communication systems on Navy submarines. They would send us, we replaced the entire radio room. They sent the submarine out to sea, started sending test messages, and they can check every single hop, everywhere that message is received and goes through. It made a hop through China before it got to the test radio room back in Newport, Rhode Island. And it was through a router. Okay, so even though we were buying what we thought were trusted routers, nothing anymore is trusted because so many of the chips have come from China.
Yep.
Everything that was going out the front door was also going out the back door through a back door chip that they had put into that router. So, you know, do we have problems in Arkansas? Not widespread. But we have to standardize it across all 50 states to ensure that every single person has the same chance of their vote counting as everybody else.
You just outlined Trump's executive order that he signed past March,
I know that.
which is called the Preserving and Protecting America's Elections
I know
Act.
that.
And that's another issue. We're really looking at this primary of having to do 2 elections because the federal government owns the federal elections.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump's executive order says you're not going to be using any machines that have components made from outside the United States. Guess who? Everybody's electronic machines have components manufactured from outside the United States. So that means that you're going to potentially be doing a paper ballot for the federal elections, and if the states choose to do a ballot for the state elections, which they have sovereignty and can do. But what does that tell the public? Well, why should I trust that machine if my own federal government doesn't? You know, and if it's not good enough for the federal government, how's it good enough for the state government? What do they know that we don't know?
Well, speaking of not trusting systems, what do you think about the mail-in ballot?
Zero. The only you can't have them. The only ballots that should be allowed to come in is from the military.
That's right.
And we have voting assistance officers that are vetted, and they're
And you can't be counting them for 6 months.
No, they got to get back in an adequate amount of time, and they got to be counted at the appropriate
Constitution
time.
says November, one day,
Yeah.
first Tuesday, November, one
you go.
day. Doesn't say the first 2 weeks of November, first 3 weeks of November.
We need to get back to much smaller precincts scattered throughout and have single-day voting, because everything that we have right now is just opportunity for failure points. When you have the EPO books that has the list of it, and you got early voting, you can see how many people are voting. And then as you get closer to election day, you know how many votes that you need to manipulate in order to achieve success in a certain race. If
Yep.
you're being nefarious, you can put that data together.
Yep.
And then you got two options. Because you know all the people that didn't go and vote, you can start bussing people in to get the numbers above it. You know, there's just too many opportunities.
Okay, I'm going to cut this short.
Yep,
We're
we're gonna
running out
have-
of time.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I hope you come back because you've got a lot, man. You're an interesting fellow.
Well, appreciate that.
I'll
come
we
back.
will have him back before the election, I assure you.
Yeah, but before we let you go, do you have any contact info you want to
Yeah.
put out?
Thank you so much for that. Again, I'm not a politician. I always forget to throw that out. But if you want to know more about me, you can go to briannorse.org. Facebook is Norse for Arkansas. I do a live stream every Wednesday myself. That's a Q&A for anybody that wants to come on and ask me anything. I don't shy away from it at all, and I try to stay on about an hour. But if more people are in there, I'll stay on longer. And if you're financially able and you're willing, you can make a donation via the webpage. There's a donation link there, and you can shoot an email to norse4arkansas@gmail.com if you want to find out mailing information or any other ways that you can contribute or volunteer or help with the campaign.
All right, Brian. Well, I sure thank you. I learned a lot today myself. Russ, did you want to say anything about the heat and air?
Yeah, just wanted to remind
time.
people that we are sponsored in part by Mountain Home Heat and Air, right here in Mountain Home. Been voted best in Twin Lakes area for 2 years in a row now. So
I like the Made in America
so-
pieces
yeah.
that they offer.
Yeah, me
Yep, yep.
That's a big selling point.
So give them a call. Their phone number is 870-425-HVAC. That's 425-4822.
We really appreciate them.
Yep.
And last bit of work here is a few announcements. Quorum Court meets the first Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. at the Baxter County Courthouse. City Council meets the first and third Thursday at City Hall at 5 p.m. City Planning Committee, second Monday, 1 p.m. at City Hall. County Planning Committee, second Tuesday, 11 a.m., Baxter County Courthouse. A&P, which is Advertising and Promotion, third Thursday, 3 p.m., City Hall. School Board, third Thursday, 6 p.m. And maybe one of the most important ones is Baxter County Republican Committee, that's us. Last Tuesday each month, 6 p.m. at the VFW.
You can get some good food there too.
You can get something to eat there, but now there's no
No meeting in December.
meeting in December.